When film and sound were first combined, Walt Disney knew that it would be a wonderful prospect for getting the most out of his cartoons. The first released Mickey Mouse cartoon, Steamboat Willie, took full advantage of being a talkie picture, despite not having any real dialogue in it aside from a near unintelligible parrot. The star, alongside Mickey, Minnie, and Pete, was the music. Oh, but there was much more to come. Walt knew that music could tell a real story and could be used for more than just whistling mice and dancing skeletons. Once characters actually began opening their mouths and talking, anything seemed possible. They could sing of dreams, of magical worlds, of love, and of evil. Yes, the Disney villains are truly a despicable lot, and that's why we love them so much. Even Walt Disney himself acknowledged their importance in one of the episodes of his anthology show, saying there wouldn't really be much of a story without these guys. And boy, do we love it when they sing. Even if a villain doesn't necessarily get the best song, or one that will get a Grammy or an Oscar, their songs are often so fun and entertaining that they usually steal the show. As the title implies, I'm going to look at the Disney villain songs over the years, and I hope to cover all of them, even the really obscure ones and the ones that didn't even make the cut. Now that's a lot of material to cover, so obviously this will be spread out over a series of videos. Just as a note, given the huge amount of villain songs out there, I might leave out one or two accidentally. I love me some Disney, but there are plenty of TV series that I haven't watched, and there might be a few songs that fly under the radar. Heck, even some series that I have watched might have a few songs that I'll miss. Just be prepared. Now let's start at the beginning of the villain songs back in 1933. In the early days, most cartoons didn't have a lot of dialogue, just music. Occasionally a character would say something, but an extended conversation was a rarity. The first villain song was in The Mad Doctor from 1933. In this cartoon, Pluto is kidnapped by Dr. Triple X, who wants to put Pluto's head on a chicken's body. For science, of course. The Doctor explains all of this to us creepily in song. It's not a terribly long song, but the short is only about 7 minutes, so they can't really waste much time with a production number or anything. It gets the point across, and then we move on to watching Mickey get chased by skeletons. Like a lot of firsts, this early villain song is by no means a masterpiece, but it showed a glimmer of promise of what was to come. The cartoon itself was not very popular when it was first released, but it is now regarded as something of a classic. The Mad Doctor himself appeared as an antagonist in the Epic Mickey video games, where he had many more songs. But that's a story for a later time. For our first villain song in glorious Technicolor, we have Pluto's songs from the Goddess of Spring. No, not Mickey's dog, I mean the god of the dead. This story retells the classic myth about the Goddess of Spring, Persephone, being kidnapped to the underworld, causing the seasons to change for the first time. This was the first time that Disney animators experimented working with realistic human anatomy. While the characters aren't that impressive, their practice continued and paid off with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs a few years later. This whole short is sung through operatically, giving Pluto a chance to really belt out some impressive low notes. The best of the villain song parts come when his demon minions celebrate Persephone's capture with a number called Heidi Hades. Yeah, it's a rather silly take on Cab Calloway's Minnie the Moocher, but it's still entertaining, especially with the nice use of flames and shadows. Aside from that entertaining Hades number, the rest of the short's music isn't nearly as fun. The singers sound fine, but the over-the-top melancholy tone grates on you after a while. Much like their animation of realistic human proportions, their songwriting had a way to go, but it was gradually improving. Our next Disney villain song comes in The Flying Mouse, a story about following your dreams and then watching them crash and burn. The cartoon's message seems to be yourself, or else you'll be shunned by the ones you love. Then again, the first Mickey Mouse cartoon animated had a similar message, so maybe the moral is specifically that mice just shouldn't fly. In this short, a cute little mouse rescues a butterfly, who is really a disguised fairy. She grants him the gift of some fancy bat wings, but he ends up scaring everyone away. When the poor guy is at his lowest, a group of bats mock him for being neither a bat nor mouse, and is therefore a nothing. They sing a mocking song called You're Nothin' But a Nothin'. Like the Mad Doctor song, there's really not much to say about this. Oddly, the song was apparently popular enough to have sheet music printed of it at the time, despite its short length. Hey, laugh all you want, but that sheet music probably costs a fortune today. And speaking of fortunes, due to The Flying Mouse not getting the best reception, Walt Disney tried his hand at directing the next short, The Golden Touch. While Walt had experience directing in the past, it had been a while. The Golden Touch opens with its villain song, with King Midas. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, King Midas isn't evil, he's just in over his head and didn't think things through. Well, I give you Exhibit A right here. Yeah, the guy turns his living cat into solid gold. It looks painful, and we don't get to see the cat restored or anything at the end. Not cool, Midas. I hope you choke on that hamburger with onions. Midas' villain song is pretty much just him sitting there and rambling about how much he loves gold. Yeah, it's good at establishing his greedy character, I guess, but even in 1935, people knew who King Midas was. It's also pretty much just a static shot of Midas singing. There's not really anything interesting going on, and it's not a good sign if you're getting bored a minute into a 10-minute cartoon. Well, Walt Disney learned from his mistakes and went on to oversee the productions of lots of true masterpieces. However, he never actually directed another film again. You might remember this next cartoon pretty well, since it was on a few Halloween compilation tapes. Pluto's Judgment Day is not a bad cartoon, but it really does not portray Mickey's loyal dog in a very positive light. In this cartoon, Pluto dreams he goes into the Cave of Wonders, or something that looks enough like it, and is put on trial by a bunch of demonic cats for his crimes, like causing one cat to develop some nasty PTSD, and actually drowning another cat apparently. Racially insensitive stereotype or not, that's just... wow. Well, like I said, this is just a dream, and I can only hope that Pluto's own psyche embellished these things. Otherwise, I don't know if I could look him in the eyes of Disneyland. Let's just write this off as a dream or non-canonical. Anything to expunge the sins of everyone's favorite Disney dog who isn't Goofy. As for the song, the cats play the whole trial like a mini-musical. Too bad Pluto can't sing to defend himself. I like the music a lot in this one, but the songs keep changing so quickly, I can't really latch on to one before another starts. Obviously, Pluto's Judgment Day isn't coming to Broadway, but it would be interesting to hear some extended versions of these songs. Disney had a hit with 1933's release of The Three Little Pigs. It was done during the Great Depression, and the bouncy song Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf was just the kind of spirit lifter people needed. The original pigs in the cartoon proved to be so popular that 3 follow-up shorts were made, despite Walt generally not liking to do sequels. The best of these sequels, I think, was 1936's Three Little Wolves, where we meet Big Bad's offsprings. The 3 little wolves are just as bad as their father. His villain song comes at the beginning, where the wolf sings about the different delicious body parts of the pig to his sons. The melody of this song is super familiar, and I've heard it before in other cartoons, like in Fleischer's Educated Fish, but I don't actually know the name of it or its origin. I do know that in this song, the wolf sings in a German accent, apparently to subtly remind the audience about the growing threat of Adolf Hitler. The little wolves get their own shining moment where they mock their dad with their own little rendition of Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf. Like father, like sons. The 3 little wolves rarely appear anymore. The Disney comics introduced a different son for our main wolf, a character named Little Bad Wolf, who is best friends with the 3 little pigs and doesn't want to hurt or eat anybody. These comics are not only pretty fun, but they're also a lot more interesting than the 3 like-minded wolf kids. The songs we've just discussed are all decent in their own merits, but there was a lot more they could do with musical numbers in general, if only they had more time to work with. You know, longer shorts or maybe even a full-length film. Well, that would have to wait for the next year.